I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. We are joined by Cesiana. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much.
I hope you're doing okay from your recent bout with illness. and we
it's getting slowly better.
It gets slowly better. And thanks for joining us from the Horizon.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, now, please introduce yourself for everybody.
Well, my name is Cesiana, Ceci for short, and I'm representing the Horizon as a Twitch channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a trans woman that tries her very best to kind of represent a lot of different people in a community, which is why I see myself somewhat separately from the channel that I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing that we do is, well, we cover a lot of variety stuff. We cover a lot of storytelling and I'm a designer myself, so that's kind of where the storytelling comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And we enjoy just yapping about and having talks about a lot of different topics.
That's cool. That's cool. When did you get started with VTubing or streaming in general?
So that's two separate dates for me.
Mm-hmm.
I started streaming about 6 years ago, and I kind of just went from there. At some point, I decided that I wasn't very comfortable with showing myself that much on screen,
mm-hmm.
and I found a lot of like VTubers that were very interesting to me, and I was like, yeah, I mean, they're very cool. I want to be cool too. I have a friend who helped me make a model for me. They're very awesome, and I was like, well, let's try it out as a VTuber instead, and I think it's been very relevating for me.
That's cool. Were you a fan of VTubers before you started with the model?
Yeah, so I used to watch a lot of some of the more popular VTubers out there, the corporate ones mostly.
Right.
I just enjoy. Personally, I don't particularly care whether someone is a VTuber or not, because I like people for the content that they make.
Yep.
But there were definitely a few people where I'm like, yeah, their content is very fun.
It's a chance for some people to be more them with others than they would normally be, because I see people kind of opening up a little more when they don't feel quite as vulnerable in front of a bunch of eyes. Is that the case for you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case for me. I felt a lot better being able to talk and be myself, while slightly also having a different face that people could look at in a way, because I love talking, but I didn't want people to like see everything about me.
There are a lot of people who would be in radio, I think, if it wasn't for VTubing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because we unfortunately, a lot of us old radio people have faces perfect for radio. Just listen to him talk. Don't look at him, hon. But really, this has given so many people the chance to show us what they got, their talents, and so on. And you say you're a designer. What type of designer are you?
So I'm a designer of digital products,
Oh.
which could range from websites to games in general. And my personal favorite is some form of storytelling. So any type of storytelling.
So some type of a visual novel type thing?
So there's like many different ways to tell a story. I'm personally someone who loves just writing text down, but especially in like the game industry, there's many ways to tell a story in terms of environmental storytelling. There could be quest tags, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then in websites, you could also kind of represent a group. You could represent a story. You could represent a certain goal in a way, and you want to tell a story through a website. That's kind of the things that I enjoy.
Well, so you're not just you can't be pigeonholed, basically. There's no way to really explain it straight out, because you're doing so many different things with it. Writing and developing and not just the content, but what it looks like at the same time, how it's presented. How did you get involved in that? I imagine when you were like 6 years old, it wasn't the first thing that came to your mind when you wanted to do when you grew up.
So the first thing that came to my mind when I was 6 years old was I want to be involved in the gaming industry.
Uh,
I want to make games.
uh,
And that kind of has evolved to, okay, I'm also okay with doing general type of stuff
mm-hmm.
to, hey, I want to tell a story with everything I'm doing.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's really great. And again, it's a form of artistry um, that I'm sure is extremely fulfilling when you've got it out on the computer and you're able to see it yourself.
Yeah, I think I do totally agree that it's a form of artistry. It's I'm personally someone who is, for example, very bad at actually drawing stuff. And
One
I've
of
always said
us.
that, hey, if you I said, hey, if you can tell a story, that could be a form of art, you know? You could represent, you could show something cool to someone and be like, oh, I'm very proud of this.
Hmm.
Do you want to hear my story? That's kind of the thing.
That's nice. So I always ask this of artists because I think it's very important that when did you develop the confidence to show your ideas and creations to people? A lot of people do it at home and say, "Oh, I really like this," and then when it gets a chance to show people, it's like you're really nervous. Did you have that problem at all?
So, especially when I'm looking at the stuff that I'm writing down,
Hmm.
I have a lot of stuff written down that is not published, and I have a few things that are out there that people could read.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like I started with the whole, oh, I want to show some stuff and become, I want to try to be confident in that.
Hmm.
And the more details and the more qualities I've developed on this, I'm like, now I actually want to be sure that it's actually a certain amount of quality before I get to show it to people.
Hmm.
So it's more the confidence of I now have the confidence that my work is well, but it's well for me and it also needs to be well for others.
Mm. So not only has it been confidence for you, I'm don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's kind of fed itself. The more you're doing and the more positive feedback, it gives you more confidence to do more things, and it keeps climbing upward.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I have a friend of mine that I tell all my stories to first.
Hmm.
They're kind of like the second person that knows all my stories, and I get a lot of feedback from him specifically. But it's also like I get a lot of stuff where I'm very excited about something. I tell them, hey, this is what I came up with today, and they're like, yeah, that's awesome. You should write it down. And I'm like, oh, but now I've told it, but I also need to commit to writing it down, and
Hmm.
that's like a whole different thing.
Oh, I've done this myself because I've got like a bunch of little short story things running around in my brain, and when I sit down to want to write one of them down, I find something else to do. that that
Yeah,
transition
exactly.
that transition between idea and actually doing something is something a lot of people don't do. I'm extremely guilty of that, and I probably will always be guilty of that. So, how do you break through that?
So there, I think there's two parts to that because on one part I have a lot of stuff that I still need done that
Hmm.
I haven't done.
Yeah.
There's some discipline behind that of like, okay, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I want to create something that has a certain amount of quality before I get to show it to people.
Hmm.
On the other side, sometimes you just need to do something and take that feedback. And then what I do is, um, so there's like a lot of tools around the internet that could help you with focusing and have some sort of keep a journal or whatever. There's like many different ways that you can do this.
Hmm.
But for me, it was like, especially in writing, I would just set a goal and be like, okay, let's say I wrote one chapter of a story today, and then I show it to my friend, get that feedback, and that very short feedback loop helps me because if I get quick feedback, it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this well. This is very exciting. I feel good about this, especially what you said before. It's like you get motivated by hearing positive feedback.
Hmm.
So for me, as long as the path towards that feedback is very short, that is the most effective for me.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And when did you first start getting recognized for your work?
So I've, as I mentioned, I've published a few things in the past that were
Hmm.
not very big, but I published them to specific groups.
Right.
I think when I went to high school, for example, I did a lot of writing stuff for theater,
Mhm.
and I was very early recognized by that. So that was already something. And that just led me to just publish some stuff online. And there's many people that got to look into it and were like, oh yeah, I even won a competition for storytelling. So that was very, very interesting.
That's excellence. That's good to have in your background, no matter what. I mean, that shows how creative you actually are. That people are not only enjoy what you have come up with in your head, but they want to hear more. They're coming back for more. That has got to be fulfilling.
Yeah, it's definitely a form of feedback that I'm like, that keeps me going.
Yeah, that would keep me going too. Except when I tell my stories, my wife says, "I've heard them before. Please stop telling me."
I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, it happens. It happens quite a bit. But the fact that you've been able to do this and you have an outlet for it, and you've gained confidence and you gained notoriety in a good way for it. Uh, was that something that you expected to come uh, as soon as it has?
So I personally think that for me personally, there's like a lot of moments where I could still improve.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I think I've not reached the point yet where it has gotten that much far. Although there's like I have these accomplishments, but also I have some personal goals in my head where like I want to reach this point to be recognized for this, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally don't feel like I've reached that yet. But I do think that, especially when I won that competition, a lot of people suddenly got to read my story, and it was like, wow, there's actually a lot of people that would enjoy it. And that came very fast for me.
Yeah.
Because before that, I just had a lot of stuff that were within disclosed groups, and it's like, oh, this was the first public work that I published.
Mm. So, what is your favorite genre to do stories on? Is it um, action, romance, science fiction, all of the above?
So, coming back to kind of the stuff that I do on my channel as well, I have a lot of background in MMORPGs.
Mm,
I have a lot of background in these type of fantasy games,
right.
and that's kind of where I started.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy gaming in general, Dungeons and Dragons was a place where I started as well, and that's kind of where have gotten to come to love and appreciate the fantasy genre
Mm-hmm.
in general.
Yeah.
Now, I'm also a very big fan of like classic Star Wars. I'm a big fan of science fiction. I'm a big fan of space,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love kind of mixing that a little bit. So, my favorite type of my ideal genre is a type of fantasy that has some form of technology in it, some form of magic,
Mm-hmm.
and I personally really enjoy if there's some high focus on character building. Romance could be, or it could be about a person's journey when they're interacting with their faith, for example, in a priest or a cleric or a paladin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially the focus on a character within this type of fantasy setting that has a form of technology is my favorite type of thing.
Mm. It sounds like there's a lot of ways that you can put this together, and I'm extremely jealous. Stop laughing.
There's
But it's true. It's true. There's obviously a lot of different paths you can go, and you're creative in each one of them. Um, I mean, that shows me you've got a lot to share with everybody.
Yeah, I think that is also my favorite thing. I love talking. I love just being out there and having people listen to me, even if they are like, even if it's just my friends, right?
Right.
I just love to be heard.
Yeah.
That's something that I when I get recognition for the things that I tell. That is something that makes me very happy.
So on your channel, when you're telling these, are these your stories that you're telling people, or are these the ones that come out of that noggin of yours?
So basically, for example, when I'm streaming,
Uh-huh.
I usually start playing a game.
Mm.
That's the very first thing I do.
Mhm.
Sometimes I would talk about my day or whatever, and then I would start a game. Then there could be two things that I pride myself on, and that is we talk about, for example, the lore of a game itself.
Hmm.
So if I'm very knowledgeable about the game like World of Warcraft, then I would be like, oh yeah, I can talk for hours about this specific subject in this universe. The alternative is I would talk about my personal like fan stories, like what is happening in my head that I think would fit in this story,
Yeah.
but that would fit in this bigger world, in this bigger lore. And then it continues into like, oh yeah, this is my own story, and now this character in this game relates a lot to the stuff that I'm writing.
Ah, there you go. So you're kind of adapting to what to the universe that you've put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of my stories are written in my own personal universe.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like where I would compare a lot of the stuff that is happening within the existing game universe that I at the moment I'm covering.
So that leads up to this question for you. If you're playing a game for the first time, have has your experience now as a storyteller and all of these different things that you do, does that cloud how you look at games now? Do you not enjoy a game that isn't particularly well told or something you think you could do better?
I think there's a little bit of a difference between sorry?
No, go ahead.
Um I think there's a little bit of a difference between what I enjoy as a player, like what do I enjoy playing, and what do I enjoy listening to when I'm hearing a story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I could, for example, enjoy a game that has very minimal storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
as long as the gameplay is very fun,
Yeah.
for what I would deem very fun. On the other side, if there is story, I want to listen and read everything. If they put a book down in the game, I want to read everything. And usually I would also narrate that a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I would look at a game when I'm starting a new game of like, oh, this is how their story is told. And if there's a cinematic, very cool. I will look at the cinematic and be like, oh, that's actually a funny story, or that's a very funny way for the character to be interacting with that, because body language is something that you could also do in a cinematic.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not so much when I had my old Commodore 64. We were kind of lucky to have enough sprites to do anything with back then. But
Yeah,
nowadays with the way the animation is, you should be able to get it across as much as possible.
yeah. And I think that could only improve with a lot of new technologies coming in the future.
Hmm.
Things will be improving, animations will become better, and I think that's a very cool concept to look at.
So I'm going to bring up a topic now that you might just hang up on me for, but I wouldn't blame you. AI. Um, how how much of an enemy is AI to you at this point?
So that's a very interesting question because I am, as someone who is very involved in the technology,
Hmm.
it's something that I think about a lot.
Hmm.
And I've, I think I share this concept with a lot of people that as a writer, I would not want my writing to be used or replaced by AI.
Hmm.
That is one thing.
Right.
On the other side, I do think that AI is it is making technology move faster. And that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing.
Hmm.
But to come back to what I said earlier, it's like technology is because technology is improving, that the ways that you can tell a story in, for example, a game is moving much faster.
Hmm.
Animations are completely different than they used to be,
Right.
for example. And I think AI could have a very big impact on um, how that is evolving. However, it's whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that is still to be questioned.
Yeah. It seems like to someone outside of it like me, AI can be really fascinating. It can also be very scary, and right now we're still seeing a lot of AI just certainly not up to the capabilities of what a human can do, but that'll just keep getting better and better and better. I've also been in an industry where computers have decimated it, which is radio. Um, Computers and the internet
Oh yeah.
have absolutely taken out the local announcers, um, and the industry. you can't survive in local radio these days. Uh, do you fear that taking over and instead of having um, people with innovation and people with ideas, you have a corporation that just turns to, Big Blue or whatever they name their computer and says, "Come out with a topic and we'll and come up with a game."
Well, on the topic of innovation, I think their AI can be used in a way that a lot of the progress towards new technologies and new concepts could be improved. And in terms of speed with AI, I personally do fear that, yeah, as a writer who enjoys being creative, that could kind of just be replaced in terms of being a job, right? At some point, companies will want to have AI or people that work very fast, and I want to create something cool.
Right.
And I think it could create some sort of disconnect for people who want to work towards profit and people who want to be creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm hoping that it can continue and be used as a tool rather than a replacement. And
yeah,
and that
I
would,
think that would be the ideal scenario.
yeah, but I also think that's going to require folks who are creative to adapt to it and start using it start taking the tool and mastering it themselves and using it in a way that benefits them rather than works against them. Um, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I think. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Instead of
Yeah,
working
yeah,
against
yeah.
it, work with it and kind of overcome it and absorb it, so to speak.
I think um, a lot of people talk about how the internet is a little bit of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories about AI doing bad things.
Right.
And I recently got to talk to some people at a university, some teacher, and I got to talk about AI. I got to listen to some sort of, I think it was some sort of presentation about, I think it was about virtual reality or something.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about how how they're teaching AI to be used as a tool,
Right.
and how you need people to understand AI
mm-hmm.
to be able to use it properly,
mm-hmm.
and also to make sure that it's being used in an ethical way. And the only thing that you're currently hearing on the internet is like, oh, AI is stealing art, AI is doing this and that,
They took
which is
their
all bad,
jobs.
which makes sense because it is not a good thing.
Yeah.
But there's also nobody that is kind of regulating it. And because it's new technology, people need to regulate it first to be able to use it. But therefore, people need to be open to understanding it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to be the thing. I mean, radio and television. When television came up, radio hated it, and it was, you're going to replace the radio with television. Well, I mean, radio stuck around for a long time. Cable television and over-the-air television when it came out. Well, now you have no over-the-air television for the most part. But they've adopted and
I don't watch television.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even. I had one until my cats broke it. Yeah. They, but in order to beat the technology, you have to be able to use and absorb the technology in most cases. And
yeah, you require some form of understanding.
Yeah, yeah. If you got to know the enemy, you gotta interact with it a little bit. And I really do hope that very soon some folks are able to do that, because I don't want to lose a generation of people who are now just over say even VTubing, now just getting a chance to show what they can do. At the same time, then get trumped by AI in the process. I mean, we're just getting this flower open. Let's not cut it, okay?
I mean, there's even AI VTubers out there, so it's
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's there are definitely AI VTubers out there, but when you get to the point where, I mean, we're in a situation now with, say, music, where a lot of the music that is in rotation sounds exactly the same. Well, a lot of it goes straight through a computer, so it's going to sound pretty much the same at this point.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, does it really matter who's singing it right now? If the voice is auto tuned to whatever the computer wants, it really doesn't matter at this point. So I hope that all changes soon. Let's get to a better topic, which is your channel. Yeah, let's talk about that because you talked about it being a place where you could gather people where they can enjoy the storytelling. How long has it taken you to build up a good community?
So my community at the moment is very small, but still a very lovely community.
Mm-hmm.
It's a community of people that enjoy storytelling in the way that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's always from when I started. I've been here for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think some people have stuck around for a while, so they're still here to listen to the stories that I tell. And there's like recently, I've had a lot of new people come in that were like, "Oh, this is a topic that might be interesting to look into some more." So it's yeah, aside from being it still somewhat small, it's a very cozy place, and I think that is very important to me. I think it's important that the community enjoy what they're doing, and streaming in general is something that I want to enjoy doing rather than having a necessity of doing it.
When you go to the internet yourself, are you looking for a cozy place? Are you looking for an escape for yourself when you do that?
Yeah, I think there can be a lot can be said about the world, and I think a lot can be said about the internet as well.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I do enjoy doing on the internet is, well, having less worries. So, for example, I spent almost no time thinking about drama. I spend no time about looking at politics. It's just the time that I spent on the internet is to be creative and interact with people.
Mm-hmm. And you've been able to do that. I mean, that's your channel is pretty much doing exactly what you wanted, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely in a place where I feel comfortable saying that it's in a place where I want it to be.
Yeah, and just doing more of it is one of the things I imagine you want to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
But is there something that you haven't done on the channel yet? Some type of a stream, maybe even a game that you'd like to stream that you haven't done yet that you really want to do?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think on one side, I want to be spending a lot more time networking and collabing with people
Mm-hmm.
because I enjoy streaming the most when I have someone to talk to. So I have one or two people that sometimes co-host with me and we're together and we're talking about these topics together.
Right.
But when I'm alone, it's kind of like I enjoy talking, but it's a lot easier when I have someone talking back in a way.
Right.
Because then you can bounce around ideas and you can kind of keep the conversation going. And I think that is something that I could still improve on a lot. I want to talk to people. I want to meet new people out there and actually work with them on, for example, collaborative storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could play a game together and talk a little bit like an interview or something like a topic like what we're currently doing.
Yeah.
It's I would love to be able to share my ideas and bounce around ideas with other people while we're also working on having some content in the background.
I would encourage that for any VTubers that want to do something like that. Have somebody else on and just talk about topics because, I mean, I enjoy the heck out of talking with everybody, and you're no exception. I've enjoyed talking with you in this interview. But two VTubers talking about the same topic are going to have a different way to cut the apple because you've got
Sure,
a different
yeah.
point of view than I do. So maybe there's a whole new different thing that comes out of the conversation, and styles are different. The way people ask questions are different. I think folks know by now that I just mostly like talking to people. I'm not trying to pin anybody in the corner with anything, but some people are more conversational, some people aren't, and I really hope to see more people doing this.
I think the most fun thing about storytelling is telling a story together with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be done best when you have other people to tell a story together.
Getting to the number 2 is much easier if you have 2 people.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of fun that you can be had in
Yeah.
talking about stuff and telling a story on your own. But I personally enjoy it the most when there's people that I can talk to, that people can talk back to me, and then together you could create something cool that people would find entertaining to listen to.
Well, I tell you, it's very entertaining talking with you, and I'm thoroughly amazed at your talent and what you're able to do. Um, this is
I'm not that special. I just like talking, to be honest.
oh, stop it! The fact that you're able to do this, you have this talent to do it, you want to do it, and obviously work towards doing it, is all giant positives. And the fact that people are coming to your channel to hear it, particularly that. Not only I hope is that fulfilling for you, but is also um, showing off what you can do. 20 years ago, I don't know what you would particularly be doing with that talent that you have, because you wouldn't have the VTuber world to show it off. You still have the internet there, but not quite the same. Maybe you'd be more into writing than anything else. But
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but here you got a really good chance to explore everything and expand and continue to glow out there and show what your talent is. Um, this seems pretty. This seems right in your wheelhouse, VTubing.
It is great that there is a place where I can have my voice heard,
Uh-huh.
and that's definitely different from 20 years ago, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And don't even get me started on 40 years ago because I was there. I can tell you how different that was. Yeah, it would be like internet. What? No, no, it wouldn't happen. Cesiana, it's so great to talk with you. I hope we can get you on again soon, and we'll talk more about your talents, your storytelling, your channel. We're going to have links to your works on the description for this interview, and I hope folks can come over to the Horizon and check things out because
Well,
you got great talent, and I'm happy you're able to give it to us.
thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure to be talking for the little bit that we had. And also, congratulations on 300 interviews.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. We got a lot more to go. Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.